got small arrows. There we go. You can see what's happened. It's taken it away from here and sort of split it or separated it out. But as a consequence, it means that you can go in and make adjustments to it. So these ones need to be done. So I'll just temporarily move those out of the way. So again, to move the points here, you select UVs, not the vertices through your normal view or your normal objects, but right click, select your UV or texture points, and then use your normal move, rotate, scale tools to move them out of the way. So this one we need to move back in. So you can see as I'm adjusting it, it's adjusting what part of the texture is being shown. So if I go to this, then that's basically it. Now, since this case I want the same texture on all the other sides, I don't have to go through the process again of what I did. I can simply copy and paste that arrangement for the other ones. So the way I do that is select the ones that are correct, which is essentially this one. Then in the UV editor menu, go to edit copy, because I'm copying the texture arrangement that I've just done. And then what I do is click on, say, this other face and go edit paste. And I can actually do them all in one go. Select the faces I want and go edit paste. So it's taken the arrangement from the first one that we did and basically pasted them, in this case, in the other three sides. Okay, so there's the fence and there's the chicken. Okay, I'll just save this, but then I'll open up the finished scene just to put it in some sort of context. File open scene, it was this one. And you can see the additional things I did here. There's the ground material, there's the chicken and the fence. What I've done here is put, actually for this one, I've put, where's that texture? It's this one. No, it's not that one. That's the original one that I've given you, this image. But what I've done in Photoshop, because I wanted the sky to be separate object to the ground or to the hillside. Okay, so if you look at the mayor's scene, what I've effectively done is gone into Photoshop and separated the sky part of that picture, made it into a new file. Okay, and just kept the landscape part of it. So that's the original one. So what I did is made that basically just create a new file in Photoshop and just had the sky. And for this one, I just reduced it just to the landscape. Okay, you might find, the point being, you might find that even if you use textures off the internet, you still will need to go back in to Photoshop and make adjustments. Now, whether it's a color adjustment, which is what I did, say, which one did I adjust? No, that's the one. Oh no, where's the one that I adjusted? Is it here? Oh, doesn't show it. Where's the darker one? Oh, it was there. Don't know where it's gone. But as you saw, I made a darker I adjusted this in Photoshop. The texture made it a bit red because the two of them, that was slightly less red than that one. So to match that texture, I actually took that one back in Photoshop, color balanced it a little bit more towards the red, so it sort of matches, more or less matches. Now these guys are just spheres that I've added. Okay, so you can see they're shiny, and if you look at your rendered image, actually I'll render this, you'll find that it's actually reflective. Okay, and hopefully you pick up on those extra attributes in those video tutorials about how to make things shiny or reflective. Again, we'll be doing this continuously, so you'll have a chance to sort of look at it again. But if you look at this render when it finishes, because I've put a shiny material on this sphere, means that it's not only shiny, but by default it's also reflective. And you can actually control the reflectivity and the shininess, called a specular highlight, as well. So you can sort of see that it shows the reflection of the rest of the scene. Okay, but basically what I did with that sphere is just created a sphere, obviously. There we go. Now I've got an existing material, and we might end up looking at how you can assign materials through the hypershade. So again, a few ways of assigning materials and textures. You can do it directly from the object by going assign new material or assign existing material. But now if I go to the hypershade, which is under Windows, Rendering Editors Hypershade, this is basically all those bits that we're looking before. They're all in one sort of block here. Okay, so there's the list of materials that we saw before. There's the 2D texture with the file icon. There's all the material. So it brings all the stuff together in one space called the hypershade. So you can see up here, you could probably recognize some of the textures in that preview. Okay, it's Lambert 2. I think that was the ground. Again, we won't have time now to look at the hypershade proper, but those video tutorials that you saw before do mention the hypershade, refer to it, and we'll be doing it again next time as well. But for now, what I want is I want to look at which text or which material that sphere is, which is that blue one. Again, Fong1 means nothing to you. I've created either a Blinn or a Fong, which is a shine material. But again, good practice to rename material because, you might have 20 or 30 Lamberts. You don't know what's what. So if I rename this and say this could be, call it whatever's appropriate, blue ball. Okay, so if I want to assign the same material as is in the other spheres to this new one, again, I can do it through the object and go assign existing, or I can actually do it directly from the hypershade, which means middle mouse click the material node here, drag it across to the object and release it, and you assign the material. So if I wanted to, I can assign whatever I like to anything. Let's just assign the surface to everything, so make it all surface. But basically, this is another way of assigning materials, is through the hypershade. So you'll find that there's a few different ways of assigning materials. They all refer back to the same sort of process, but it depends what you're sort of used to or sort of what you're sort of easier with. Okay, I think that should do it. I think for this screen recording. Again, the rest of this scene, and I'll open it again before I stuffed it up. So it's this one. Again, I've gone through the surface here. I've gone through the chicken and the fence with the alpha channels. Essentially, these remaining two are just like what we did here with the textures. And the spheres here, I just applied a material color with a shiny bit, and then duplicated these to sort of, have many of them. Okay, that should give you, the additional thing is that I've done here, and I won't do it because you can sort of play around with it. You do it a little bit in the first assessment task, is just add some lights. And in this case, I think I added a bit of color to the lights. Did I? Yeah, a bit of red or whatever, just to sort of enhance it a bit of yellow. But then, you can do that a little bit later on with lighting. So again, this looks a bit more interesting than what we had before, because what we had before was basically this. But again, not that. If I want to put the default material back on, then I can just go assign existing, or actually I'll just do it directly from the hypershade. The default material, when you open it for the hypershade for the first time, it's Lambert 1. So don't delete that because that's the default gray for all the surfaces, all the objects. But in this case, if I want to reapply the default material to those objects that have got textures, again, like before, middle click, drag it, and it replaces what was there with the default material. So we're back to where we began. Okay, one more extra thing, goodness gracious. Anyone know how I would have done this sort of undulation, that sort of smoothness? Yep, the Sculpt Geometry tool. Really good tool. So just quickly show you that. So create polygon plane. Now because I'm going to control or vary the surface, I can't just do it with one polygon, so I need to subdivide it. So go to subdivision height width, divide it up, and that tool is under surfaces, Sculpt Geometry, and then it's sort of push, pull, smooth sort of option. Brush size, and you've got sort of that happening. Okay, now interestingly enough, if I can sort of see it in my other scene, is that the one? Yep. You can see what I've done here. I've actually put the texture on, but part of the texture had sort of a rock or rocks on it. So I thought, oh yeah, it might be good to enhance that. So what I did, I actually went in using the sculpt geometry tool and puffed up that section of the object to make it look like the rock is sort of covering it. So what I did basically is gone to Surfaces, Sculpt Geometry tool. Actually, I might just go to the options. There we go. So I'll make the brush a bit smaller by pressing B, middle mouse. So what I did, I push it back down again. So that was sort of flat, but because I saw a rock there in the texture, I thought I might sort of just puff up that part of it so it looks like it's raised, so it looks like it's actually a rock. And this thing is sort of like a crater, so for that part of the text or that part of the object, I went in and sort of made it sort of dented it a bit. So it gives the appearance that that bit is going in and that bit is sort of sticking out. Okay, so this is going in after the texture and fine-tuning the geometry. So again, with this texture, what I can do is go in and perhaps, well, let me just select it. Sorry. Why is that selected? Goodness gracious. Yeah, that's it. So I've selected that, go into the Sculpt Geometry tool, and you can go in and adjust it just so perhaps the texture sort of coincides a little bit more with the modeling. It's a bit of fine-tuning, but you'll find that you might need to do that. In this case, it doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's sort of a transition between the background and the ground. So I've moved it up a bit there. So it looks like it sort of continues on as best as you can. So that was by just adjusting the color, adjusting the geometry. So from the point of view that we're going to see this, it almost looks seamless, like a seamless sort of depth. And because I cut out the sky or separated the sky, put it on the plane, it creates extra depth or extra sort of parallax that might sort of, be sort of useful. Okay, I'm going to stop this screen recording. It's probably about 10 megabytes or 10 gigabytes.